You may think you're buying ice cream. But in the grocery store freezer aisle, some of the biggest, brightest, most familiar frozen treats are not actually labeled ice cream at all. They look like ice cream. They sit right next to ice cream. They come in tubs, pints, cones, sandwiches, bars, and dessert packs that feel like ice cream. But when you look closely at the label, you may see something very different. Frozen dairy dessert, non-dairy frozen dessert, sorbetto, light ice cream. Those words matter more than most shoppers realize. Because in America, ice cream is not just a casual word. It has rules. Real ice cream has to contain enough milk fat, enough total milk solids, and enough weight per gallon to legally earn the name. That is why some products in the freezer aisle cannot simply call themselves ice cream. They may taste good. They may be fun. They may be perfect for someone who wants something dairy-free, lower calorie, softer, cheaper, or more convenient. But if you are paying for ice cream, expecting ice cream, and bringing home something that is technically a frozen dessert instead, you should know that before it lands in your cart. So today, we are going through 10 ice cream aisle products you should check carefully before buying. And this time, every single item comes from a different brand. Then at the end, we will look at 5 products from 5 different brands that are actually labeled ice cream. Let's start with number 10. Number 10. Talenti Alfonso Mango Sorbetto. Talenti has one of the most recognizable packages in the freezer aisle. The clear jar looks premium. The flavors sound elegant. The product feels more expensive and more grown-up than a lot of regular ice cream tubs. But Talenti Alfonso Mango Sorbetto is not ice cream. It is sorbetto. That does not make it bad. In fact, for someone who wants a dairy-free or vegan frozen dessert, this can be exactly what they are looking for. The issue is expectation. A shopper may see Talenti in the ice cream aisle and assume everything in those jars is basically ice cream. But sorbetto is a different product. It is built around fruit, sugar, and texture, not cream and milk fat. That means it can taste bright, sweet, and refreshing, but it will not have the same dairy richness as traditional ice cream. And this is a perfect example of how the freezer aisle works now. Not everything beside the ice cream is ice cream. Some products are alternatives. Some are frozen desserts. Some are dairy-free treats. And some are in the same aisle because that is where shoppers expect frozen sweets to be. So with Talenti Alfonso Mango Sorbetto, the warning is simple. Enjoy it as sorbetto, not as ice cream. Number 9. Cotto Vanilla Bean Avocado, frozen dessert. Cotto is one of the more unusual products in the freezer aisle because it is made around avocado. That alone makes it interesting. Most shoppers do not expect avocado in a vanilla frozen dessert. They expect milk, cream, sugar, and vanilla. But Cotto is not trying to be standard dairy ice cream. It is a dairy-free frozen dessert built for people who want something plant-based, vegan, or different from the usual pint. Again, that does not make it fake in a dishonest way. The package tells you what it is, but it becomes confusing when people compare it directly to real ice cream. Avocado can create a smooth texture, but the eating experience is still different from cream-based ice cream. The richness comes from another place. The formula is built around another idea. That is why Cotto belongs on this list. Not because it is a bad product, but because it proves how far the word ice cream has stretched in everyday conversation. A lot of people call every frozen scoop ice cream, but legally and practically, that is not always true. Cotto Vanilla Bean is an avocado-based frozen dessert. If that is what you want, great. If you wanted classic ice cream, read the label first. Number 8. Oatly Vanilla Frozen Dessert. Oatly is famous for oat milk, so it makes sense that the brand would move into frozen desserts. Oatly Vanilla Frozen Dessert is designed for people who want a plant-based frozen treat without dairy. And for that audience, it can make sense. But it is still not traditional ice cream. The base is oats, not dairy cream. The product is vegan and made without milk. That automatically puts it into a different category from regular ice cream. This is one of the most important points in the entire video. Non-dairy frozen desserts are not automatically bad. They are not scams just because they are not ice cream. But they should not be confused with ice cream either. If someone avoids dairy, Oatly might be a useful option. The label tells a different story. And that is the real lesson. The freezer aisle is no longer divided into good and bad. It is divided into categories: ice cream, frozen dairy dessert, non-dairy frozen dessert, sorbetto, frozen novelties. If you know the category, you know what you are really buying. Number 7. So Delicious Vanilla Bean Coconut Milk Frozen Dessert. So Delicious is very clear about its identity. The brand is built around dairy-free products. So delicious vanilla bean coconut milk frozen dessert is not pretending to be classic ice cream. It is a coconut milk frozen dessert, but it still sits in the same part of the store where people are shopping for ice cream. And because it is creamy, sweet, and scoopable, many people naturally compare it to ice cream. That comparison can be unfair. Coconut milk brings its own flavor, texture, and fat profile. It can be smooth and satisfying, but it is not the same as a dairy ice cream base. This is where shoppers need to separate two questions. Question 1. Is this product useful for someone who wants dairy-free dessert? Maybe yes. Question 2. Is this 100% ice cream? No. It is coconut milk frozen dessert. That is not a flaw if you know it before you buy it. But if you are expecting a traditional carton of vanilla ice cream, this is another label that can surprise you. The name tells the truth. You just have to read it. Number 6. Ben & Jerry's is one of the most trusted names in ice cream. That is exactly why this one matters. When people see Ben & Jerry's, they think ice cream. They think thick pints, big chunks, heavy swirls, cookie dough, brownies, and rich dairy bases. But Ben & Jerry's also sells non-dairy frozen desserts. Milk and cookies non-dairy is one of them. The name itself is clever because the word milk is in quotation marks. The product is built to give a familiar Ben & Jerry's experience, but without dairy. That means shoppers need to look closely. This is not the same thing as Ben & Jerry's regular milk and cookies ice cream. It is a non-dairy frozen dessert with cookies and swirls. And that is where it gets tricky. The mix-ins can carry the experience. Cookies, cookie swirls, and chocolate pieces can make almost any frozen base taste exciting. But the base still matters. If you buy it because you want a dairy-free Ben & Jerry's product, that is one thing. If you buy it thinking it is regular ice cream, that is another. This is why reading the exact product name matters more than trusting the brand name. Number 5. Klondike nuts for vanilla cones. Klondike is famous for frozen treats. People know the bars. They know the jingle. They know the idea of a quick chocolate-covered dessert straight from the freezer. But Klondike nuts for vanilla cones are not just a scoop of ice cream in a cone. The product is built as a frozen novelty. Cone, topping, peanuts, chocolatey coating, sauce core, and vanilla frozen dessert. That is a very different thing from a bowl of traditional ice cream. And this is one of the easiest categories to misunderstand. A cone feels like ice cream because we associate cones with ice cream shops. But grocery freezer cones are often engineered as full dessert products. The coating, cone, sauce, and toppings do a lot of the work. The frozen filling does not need to behave like premium ice cream because the whole novelty item is built to taste exciting as a package. So the issue is not whether it tastes good. The issue is whether shoppers know what the center actually is. Klondike nuts for vanilla cones are frozen dessert cones, not a simple scoop of traditional vanilla ice cream. Number 4. Popsicle Fudsicle. No sugar added. Frozen dairy dessert. Fudsicle is one of those names that feels like childhood. It is simple, nostalgic, chocolatey, and easy to keep in the freezer. But Popsicle Fudsicle, no sugar added, is labeled frozen dairy dessert. That should make shoppers pause. The phrase "no sugar added" can create a health halo. People see it and think they are making the better choice. Sometimes that may be true for their personal needs. But no sugar added does not automatically mean simple. And it does not automatically mean ice cream. This product is a frozen dairy dessert bar built around a specific nutrition promise: chocolate flavor with no added sugar. That means the formula is designed around that goal. For some shoppers, that is useful. For others, it may not be what they expected. This is why label reading matters. The biggest words on the box may be about flavor or sugar, but the category name tells you what the product is. And in this case, it is frozen dairy dessert. Number 3. Edie's or Dreyer's Vanilla Bean Frozen Dairy Dessert. Depending on where you live, you may see Edie's or Dreyer's on the package. It is a familiar brand with a long history in American freezers. That familiarity is exactly why the label matters. Vanilla bean sounds classic. It sounds like real vanilla, cream, milk, and a straightforward ice cream experience. But Edie's and Dreyer's Vanilla Bean can appear as frozen dairy dessert. That means you cannot rely on brand memory. You have to read the actual carton. This is one of the biggest changes in the freezer aisle. A brand can sell products that look like ice cream, sit beside ice cream, and use classic flavors. But the legal product name tells a different story. The product may still be sweet and creamy. It may still work with brownies, pie, toppings, and sundaes. But if it says frozen dairy dessert, it is not the same category as standard ice cream. That is why this product belongs near the top of the list. It looks extremely normal, and that is what makes it easy to miss. Number 2, Breyers Cookies and Cream Frozen Dairy Dessert. Breyers may be the best example of why you should never judge by brand alone. Some Breyers products are labeled ice cream. Some are labeled frozen dairy dessert. And Breyers Cookies and Cream is a product that can catch shoppers off guard because the flavor is so familiar. Cookies and cream is a classic. It feels like something that should automatically be ice cream. But the label says frozen dairy dessert. This is the kind of product where mix-ins can distract you from the base. You are thinking about cookie pieces, sweetness, crunch, and creamy vanilla flavor. You may not notice the exact category name. That is why cookies and cream is such a perfect freezer aisle lesson. The flavor can be fun, the product can be popular, the brand can be familiar, and it can still be something other than traditional ice cream. So if you like Breyers, do not assume every tub is the same. Pick it up, turn it slightly, and read the words under the flavor name. Number 1. Blue Bunny Vanilla Frozen Dairy Dessert. Blue Bunny Vanilla belongs at number 1 because vanilla is the simplest test. When people buy vanilla, they usually expect the basics: milk, cream, sugar, vanilla. A clean base that proves whether the product is rich on its own. But Blue Bunny Vanilla is labeled frozen dairy dessert. That does not mean every Blue Bunny product is the same, and it does not mean nobody should enjoy it. But it is the clearest example of the main point of this video. A product can look like a normal tub of ice cream, come from a familiar freezer aisle brand, be sold in a classic flavor, and still not be labeled ice cream. That is the moment shoppers need to notice. Because if vanilla is not labeled ice cream, that is the moment shoppers need to notice. Because if vanilla is not labeled ice cream, you should know that before you buy it. Chocolate can hide differences. Cookie pieces can hide differences. Caramel ribbons can hide differences. But vanilla exposes the base, so if you want real ice cream, start with vanilla and start with the label. Before we move into the 5 products that are actually labeled ice cream, make sure to subscribe if you like videos that break down grocery products, food labels, restaurant chains, and the everyday items people buy without reading the fine print. This channel looks at what is really in the cart, what is worth your money, and what shoppers should check before they buy. And stick around, because after all the frozen desserts, we are going through 5 products that are actually ice cream. Number 5. Turkey Hill Simply Natural Homemade Vanilla Ice Cream. Turkey Hill Simply Natural Homemade Vanilla is a strong example of what shoppers should look for when they want something closer to classic ice cream. The product is labeled ice cream, and the Simply Natural line is built around a simple ingredient idea. That is important because the package does not need to distract you with a giant candy logo, a complicated swirl, or a novelty shape. It is vanilla ice cream. That is the promise, and sometimes the simplest products are the easiest to understand. This is not about saying it is diet food. It is not about saying you should eat unlimited amounts. It is about category honesty. If you want ice cream, buy a product that clearly says ice cream. Turkey Hill Simply Natural is one of the clearer examples. Number 4. Tillamook Vanilla Bean Ice Cream. Tillamook Vanilla Bean is another strong choice because the product is clearly labeled ice cream and starts with dairy ingredients, like cream, skim milk, and milk. That matters because real ice cream should not feel like a mystery. When shoppers pick up a tub of vanilla bean ice cream, they should be able to understand what they are buying. Tillamook is not always the cheapest tub in the freezer, but that is part of the point. Real ice cream often costs more because the formula is different. Cream costs money. Milk costs money. A denser product costs money. So when a product is clearly labeled ice cream and uses a recognizable dairy base, that gives shoppers more confidence that they are not just buying air, sweeteners, and a frozen dessert formula. Number 3. Bluebell Natural Vanilla Bean Ice Cream. Bluebell Natural Vanilla Bean is another product that helps show the difference between a frozen dessert and a true ice cream product. The product is labeled ice cream, and the ingredient list starts with milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk. That is exactly the kind of thing shoppers should learn to recognize. A real ice cream label is not automatically perfect. It can still be high in calories. It can still be high in sugar. It can still be something you treat as dessert. But at least the category is clear. You are not buying sorbetto. You are not buying non-dairy frozen dessert. You are not buying frozen dairy dessert. You are buying ice cream. That clarity is the entire point. Number 2. Haagen-Dazs Vanilla Ice Cream. Haagen-Dazs Vanilla is one of the clearest examples of premium ice cream. It is known for a short ingredient list and a dense, rich texture. The formula is simple: cream, milk, sugar, vanilla, and egg yolk. That is why it works so well as a contrast against frozen dairy desserts. It does not need a massive tub. It does not need a giant list of mix-ins. It does not need to pretend to be the cheapest option. It is expensive because it is positioned as a premium product. And when you taste it, the difference is usually obvious. It is denser, it is richer, it melts differently. That does not mean everyone has to buy it. But if the question is, which products are actually ice cream? Häagen-Dazs Vanilla is one of the easiest examples to understand. Number 1. Jenny's Honey Vanilla Bean Ice Cream. Jenny's Honey Vanilla Bean is a strong final pick because it shows what happens when a brand builds a premium product around flavor, texture, and ingredients, instead of just size or price. It is clearly presented as ice cream. It is not trying to be a giant bargain tub. It is not trying to be a frozen novelty. It is not trying to replace dairy with oats, coconut, or avocado. It is simply a premium ice cream product built around vanilla and honey. That does not make it the only good ice cream. It does not mean everyone will prefer it, but it represents the bigger lesson. The best products in the freezer aisle are usually the ones that tell you what they are clearly. If it says ice cream, and the ingredients back that up, you know what you are paying for. If it says frozen dessert, frozen dairy dessert, non-dairy frozen dessert, or sorbetto, then you also know what you are paying for. The problem is not that these other products exist. The problem is buying them without realizing they are different. So next time you are standing in the freezer aisle, do not just look at the flavor. Do not just trust the brand. Do not just grab the cheapest tub. Look at the product name, because the truth may be sitting right under the word vanilla. If this video helped you look at the freezer aisle differently, make sure to subscribe for more videos breaking down grocery products, food labels, restaurant chains, and the everyday foods people buy without thinking twice. And let me know in the comments, which ice cream brand do you trust the most? And have you ever bought frozen dairy dessert thinking it was real ice cream?